The Husky had been watching their daughter the wrong way. At least, that's what everyone said. Everyone was wrong. Marco Della Rosa was a structural engineer. He understood load-bearing systems. He understood that when something was behaving in a way that didn't match its design parameters, the correct response was intervention. Not patience, not hope. Intervention. He applied this logic to the Husky's behavior on the fifth day and made a decision that nearly cost his daughter her life. He was using exactly the right framework. He just had the wrong blueprint. Their Siberian Husky, Una, had been in the family for 3 years. She was a blue-eyed female, 8 years old, with the kind of temperament that made trainers use words like unusually settled, not a typical Husky trait. She had navigated the arrival of their daughter Amara, now 4, with complete equanimity. No jealousy behavior, no guarding, no resource competition. She had, over 4 years, become Amara's shadow, lying on the floor of whatever room Amara played in, rising when Amara moved, following at 3-foot distance. Not intrusive, just present. So when the behavior changed, it was visible immediately. On Monday, Amara had been playing on the living room floor when Una stood and crossed to her and pressed her muzzle to the side of Amara's face. Slow, deliberate, not playful, not affectionate in the usual loose-bodied way, focused. Amara pushed the dog's face away. Una pressed back. Amara started to cry. Una did not back away. Her nose was at the child's ear, then her temple, then pressed toward her mouth. Marco pulled Una back by the collar and told her firmly to go lie down. She went. Lay down. But her eyes stayed on Amara. Tuesday, the same thing, twice. Wednesday, 3 times, with increasing insistence. Marco's mother-in-law, visiting for the week, watched it on Wednesday evening and said what he'd been thinking since Monday. That dog has developed a fixation. She's going to hurt her. Marco called a certified dog trainer on Thursday morning. The trainer listened, said behavioral fixation in working-line dogs around children was a recognized pattern and could escalate, and recommended immediate physical separation until a full behavioral assessment could be done. Marco booked the assessment for the following week and put Una in the backyard. He felt for approximately 4 hours that he had handled it correctly. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you're in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. At 4 in the afternoon, Marco looked out the back window. Una was not in the backyard. She had found the loose board in the lower corner of the fence, the one Marco had noted needed fixing for 6 months, and had pushed through it. He found her in the living room, sitting in front of Amara, who was playing with building blocks on the floor, unaware. Una's nose was pressed toward the child's face, same focused behavior, same total refusal to be deterred. Amara looked up and said, "Una, stop it," in a 4-year-old's voice of supreme patience. Marco took Una to his neighbor's house. The neighbor had a yard. He explained the situation. The neighbor agreed to keep the dog overnight. Marco came home and made dinner and told himself this was sensible management of a concerning situation. At 9:47, Amara complained her head hurt. By 10:15, the headache had become severe in a way that a 4-year-old described as the worst hurt ever. And 4-year-olds have limited comparative data, but the descriptors still stopped Marco cold. She was clammy. Her neck felt slightly stiff to his hand. He called the pediatric advice line. The nurse asked 4 questions and said, "Go now." Amara had bacterial meningitis, early stage, caught, but the window Marco walked through to the emergency department was not wide. Dr. Priya Nambiar, pediatric infectious disease at the Regional Children's Hospital, told them that bacterial meningitis produces specific volatile compounds in the exhaled breath of infected individuals in the early hours of infection, before fever becomes measurable. Dogs detect these compounds routinely. There was a documented body of research on it. Has your dog ever done something that made no sense until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. Yuna had been pressing her nose toward Amara's face because she was reading infection in the child's breath. The progressive insistence, Monday mild, Wednesday persistent, Thursday breaking through a fence, tracked precisely with the progression of bacterial load. The urgency was calibrated to what she was smelling. Another 3 to 4 hours, Dr. Nambiar told them. And the conversation we'd be having is a different one. Marco called his neighbor at 11:30 that night from the hospital waiting room and said, "Please bring the dog home." He sat in the parking lot when the neighbor pulled up and opened the car door, and Yuna got out and pressed her face against his chest and just stood there. Every guardian deserves to be seen, even the ones who never ask for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. Amara was home in 6 days. She walked in the front door in her pajamas with a hospital bracelet still on her wrist, and Yuna was there, sitting in the entryway the way she always sat when someone came home, weight forward, tail still, watching with those ice blue eyes. Amara put her arms around the dog's neck and stayed there. Yuna exhaled once. Her tail moved slow, once, and then she was still. The fence board has been fixed. The behavioral assessment was never needed. The next story involves a golden retriever who wouldn't let a family's baby sleep without lying directly beside the crib, and the night the behavior finally made sense,